Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about why youth activism is so important. So this event was created to support Yvonne and give him a platform to share his story. It was also created to encourage and inspire youth activism. As activists, we all understand that there are many crucial issues in the United States and in our world. But why is it specifically important for young people to be involved in these movements? Young people of our generation are very passionate and driven when it comes to injustices. Youth activism is important because we need to have a say in our generation's future. We can't leave all the decisions in others' hands when their decisions can impact our entire lives. As many people like to say, our generation is the leaders of tomorrow, but why can't we be leaders today? Activists such as Malala, Greta Thunberg, and the students of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School have shown the world in recent years just how much change young people can make, and just how seriously we should be taken. Political, social, economic, and environmental issues affect us just as much as adults. We deserve a say in the matter. Because it usually takes youth activists longer to be taken seriously, we are often even more dedicated to our causes. And because we have a whole future ahead of us in a world that these decisions impact, we're very passionate. Young people have proven that they can make change. The world has already seen a lot of youth activism from our generation, but there's always a need for more. We hope this panel today will inspire young people to be activists and will inspire others to take youth activism seriously. Thank you. Now we will begin with our featured panelist, Yvonne Ramirez. He is 14 years old and he is here with his mother, Hilda, and artist Edson Cruz, who helped him create these animations. Yvonne and Hilda are from Guatemala. They are Mayan Mom, an indigenous ethnic group targeted for discrimination and violence. They arrived in the US seeking asylum when Yvonne was 7 years old. To escape deportation, Yvonne and Hilda sought sanctuary in a church in Austin, Texas. ICE is not allowed to enter churches to deport them, but Yvonne and his mother have lived there for almost 5 years now. Yvonne's story will be featured through a stop-motion animation project.
They took us to another place and put us in a car. And after being for 4 days in the hielera, I thought to myself, if it won't be good over there, it won't be good in here. But the point was that I knew something was not gonna be good in there. So me and my mom were scared and they took us to shower to see if we had something. And after that, we got in another cage and there were a lot of people and it was big and it actually looked like a jail because it had tubos. And it was still cold. They gave us the same blanket and spent the night over there. They gave us food, but it was the same food from over there. And the place we were was called La Perrera. They put us in the cage all the time until they called our name. And we had to pass the same process. And we stood in line and I thought it was not going to be a good thing 100%. And then they took us to another jail and it was called something around Carnes. And then we were there for 11 months and some weeks it was like a year. I remember lots of people would faint and vomit and someone would be lonely in a cage. Some people thought she was crazy. The food in there was really bad. All the time we found bugs and worms inside the beans. So we would tell them why we found these inside our food and they would tell us maybe it fell down, just eat it. Every month, 3 guys would come and check the place. And the policeman told us if we say something bad, they would put us in a lonely cage and not give us food. and they would say that we refused to eat. We were not supposed to get close to them. I went to school there, and the teacher would teach us numbers 1 to 10, and also the teacher also told us to not talk to them. So it passed some time, and we still learned the same thing, and it was kind of sad seeing the teacher because she would bring her food and we would smell it from far away. Every time school finished, our parents were supposed to be there if we were not 10 years old. And I was 8, and my mom had to be there. And if your parents was not there, they would scream at them and told them that they should be over there. And my mom didn't like that. And sometimes kid would tell, that's my parent. But it was a lie. They would tell that lie because they were scared of them. So time would pass, but it went slowly because the police would scream at us, and every day they would come to knock our celda. There were 8 of us in our celda, so they would check to see if you were there and if you didn't eat. And if you didn't eat, they would get mad at you, and if you get sick, they would not care about us, and they would scream at us. One time we did a protest saying "Libérenos," and they got mad at us, and I was really scared because I thought they would do something to us, something bad. And sometimes our family would give us money to buy food because there wasn't good food in there. And the police wouldn't let us buy stuff because we protested. And some people would work, and it would depend on how much they work. 1 hour, $1. And if the person did the protest, they would not get paid. My mom was one of the people who was working there, and she was not getting paid. Before this, my mom would buy food because I was getting sick of the food in there. So we did another protest, and we didn't eat for like 3 weeks. And they would know because we didn't use our ID to scan it. But my mom would give me food every week or every 3 days. But I was feeling sick and dizzy, and we used to make appointments with the doctor, but they wouldn't help us. Until the 3 guys came, they started giving good food, toys, and that's when the doctor told me I was okay. But I didn't feel okay. I was dizzy and my stomach was hurting. So when the people came, they were checking the building, and with the good food, I was getting better. But when they left, they would start giving the bad food again and taking out the toys, going room by room to get them. And that's when you would hear every kid crying. One time a kid told the police why did he had a gun close to him, and he said, that's for people who don't pay attention and don't listen to the rules. I got scared because my mom would be doing a lot of protests, and I told her what I heard. And she said everything would be okay. And every day would be like that. We would get in trouble. And when the 3 guys came to check the building, they would start giving good food and toys to everyone. But the sad thing is when they left, they would start taking our things away. And that's basically a year in that jail.
So there's one more segment that we're going to show.
So after that, I don't know what happened. I heard my name and I was in school. And I heard when they said, Aida Ramirez and Yvonne Ramirez. I think they called our number and they said, please go to the room 702. And that's the room where you would get free or be back from where you came from. So me and my mom were really scared. And we were able to call our lawyer. And we called them and they said we could get free. We were really happy. And we went to the room 702. And we were in a big line and seeing a lot of people crying, saying, please, I don't want to go back to my country. And then I would see them crying and I got really scared. But they called my mom and said, we will put something to your leg so we can know where you are. And we would only stay in this part of Austin, and if you left, it would get red and beep, beep, beep. And they said, you cannot take it off. And if you do, we would go to you and your kid and we would be able to take your kid. And then my mom said, okay. And she was really scared and sad. And they took her to another room where a guy had like a lot of boxes and he got like an Apple Watch but bigger and saw it how it was like a part and put it around my mom's leg. And my mom was really scared because she didn't want that. I was really worried. Like, what's going on? What are they doing? Why are they putting that on my mom's leg? After she got that on her leg, we went to a place that it was the salida. And our lawyer was there and she picked us up. And I was really happy we got out of that place. But I was really worried about my mom's leg. And the lawyer gave me toys and we went a place to eat. I was really happy with all the things I had. And after we went to a place called Posada. And that's when there were a lot of women and I was scared of what would they do. We went to a place to sleep next to 3 women and we didn't have to pay rent or anything, but we had a limited time to stay there. At that time I remember my mom's leg monitor was beeping and saying battery low. So she had to stand next to a wall charger and wait until it fully charged. And that's how we would go. Every day my mom would say, oh, it hurts. And my mom would put something to make it more breathable. But it was so tight to put something on. I would sometimes see blood coming out. And I would get really worried and try to do something and try to clean it up. And that's when my mom went to a place to see how much time she had been with that monitor. She would be there every month. I remember they took it off and saw a lot of marks and they cleaned it up and put it back and then they would still put it really tight. And that's how every time would go until one day they told us that the police could get us and take us back to our country. And my mom was really scared, so she talked to the owner of the place. And she said she couldn't do anything. And if they come, she was gonna open the door and let us go. So my mom would look at the window and she wouldn't sleep because she was scared. And that's when she tried to find help. She found a person who could help us and told that they were a church that had a sanctuary. But my mom didn't know what was that. She only knew she had to stay in a church and couldn't go out. And of course, she said yes, because she needed help. So we came to this church, and the next day we brought our things. At first, we were happy. We were happy, but scared. And there were a time when my mom took off her leg monitor called grillete. I was scared because I remember what they told us over there. And I told her, no, don't take it off. But she said, don't worry, they already know where we are. And she put a little bit of shampoo and took it off. She was bleeding because of the pressure she made, but she did it. And the church helped us. And we are more than 4 years in this church. And when I came here, I was 9, and now I'm 14 years old. And I don't know when I'm gonna have a normal life and when I'm gonna get free.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing that story. Can you tell me about how you decided to create those videos to tell your story?
Pues yo decidí crear mis videos para que más gente vea mi historia, todo lo que pasé y todo lo que más gente puede pasar. Y básicamente también lo conté para que nos ayuden a ser libres a mí y a mi mamá y tener una vida normal como todos y ya no estar preocupado de inmigración y ya no estar encerrado, porque desde que vine a los Estados Unidos me la ha pasado casi todo mi tiempo encerrado y teniendo miedo de inmigración y a mí me gustaría que eso ya deje de pasarme, que ya no esté encerrado con mi mamá, que ya no tengamos que tenerle miedo a ICE y básicamente tener una vida normal.
Yvonne, after learning about your story today, what can people that are here do to support you and your mother?
Nos pueden ayudar como tal vez si alguien, una persona conoce a alguien que nos puede, que conoce a como un congresista o hablar con congresistas o personas que tienen el suficiente poder para, para podernos ayudar y tal vez si de todos nos unimos como un grupo, como un equipo, vamos a poder ser un grupo muy poderoso para poder vencer la inmigración, para poder llamar la atención de Biden y que nos quiten nuestra deportación y que le quite la multa de mi mamá.
Yvonne, could you explain some of that in English for some of our viewers to just let them know what they can do to help?
So maybe if you can help us, like if you know somebody like that knows a lot of people, maybe you can tell them to talk to us and I feel like if we all like go into a group, we will be so powerful to get the President Joe Biden attention, and we can tell him to stop our deportation or to stop my mom's fine and to stop the detention center and to stop deporting people and help them so people like that have my age and that are younger don't have to pass all the things I passed through.
Thank you,
Okay,
Yvonne.
Skyla, I just want to interrupt for a minute and just give a shout out to Edson Cruz, who's in the background, who has helped Yvonne create the stop motion activation animation. And thank you for being here, Edson. Thanks for your help.
Thank you. It's really exciting to be here. Muchas gracias por invitarnos. Estoy muy agradecido de estar aquí.
Thank you, Edson. Yvonne, one last question for you. What is your hope for your future?
My hope for the future is that soon I hope me and my mom will be free and the President Joe Biden does a lot of things for the country and stops the detention center. And then that this place becomes a peace safe where a lot of people can come and have their own life. They can live like normal people. That's my hope. I have more hopes for myself, but my hope for me and everyone is that I hopefully all this that I've been through stops and nobody passes from that again.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yvonne's story is told in 5 parts on YouTube. So if any viewers want to watch the entire story, the links are in the chat. Next, we have Aida Salazar, who is our only non-youth panelist. However, she is the award-winning author of Land of the Cranes, which tells the story of 9-year-old Betita and her fellow asylum seekers who find ways to fly above the hatred keeping them caged inside a family detention camp. She will now share a short video about her novel.
When Betita's family migrated to East LA, her father told her they were like birds who've come home to Aslan, land of the cranes. Betita loves to fly on Papi's shoulders, to dance with Mommy and Papi, and write picture poems in her 4th grade class. But then one day, Papi is taken away by ICE and sent to Mexico. And soon, Mommy and Betita are trapped inside a cage with other migrants. When this unimaginable cruelty threatens to tear them down, will Betita find a way for her voice to inspire change?
Thank you for sharing that video. What inspired you to write The Land of the Cranes, Aida?
Well, I was born in Mexico, and I was brought over to the United States when I was a little girl, a baby actually, and so I lived with my family undocumented my whole childhood, and so the idea of being here undocumented was something that really kind of informed who I was growing up. And, you know, though now I am documented, I come from this community. And so during the, 2018, there was a lot of terror that was being inflicted on sanctuary states in California, where I live. The mayor had said that there was raids going to be happening by ICE, and they were going to be picking up undocumented people. And the community was terrified. And so, of course, you know, this is part of a really long history of the criminalization of migration and migrants in this country. And so this kind of tension, the Trump administration's just constant anti-immigrant, anti-Mexican narrative was really strong. And so I wrote Land of the Cranes in the middle of that heartbreak, feeling and just terror really for our community.
Very moving reason for writing the book. If Betita were here right now, what do you think she would want to share with the panelists and the audience?
Well, you know, I was very inspired by just listening to Yvonne's work and him speak. You know, I think that she would say the exact same thing that Yvonne just said. Because you know, even though I've never been in detention, you know, I reached out to people who had been, and it didn't have to go very far in my own family. And then, of course, reading what happened after I'd written the book, there was a big separation of the children from their parents at the border. And so that really informed a lot of what I wrote in the book. And and what Yvonne just said and demonstrated so powerfully with his work is, I think what Betita would say, she would say, that we have to fight. We have to fight to end detention. What people are experiencing inside detention is inhumane on the most extreme level. It's brutality. And it defies human rights, international human rights laws. It defies just our own humanity. And to think that children are experiencing this kind of fear and this kind of inhumanity is just beyond belief, but we have to end it. So I think Betita would say, we have to end it. And we've got to do everything we can. Use your art, use your voice like she did. She wrote picture poems. Use your art, use your voice, and let's do it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot, and I think we're all here today as part of that. And I think that's really amazing that everyone here is willing to start a conversation about that and really just be open to learning about that and trying to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mina Loy Akira Chasell. She is a 13-year-old budding filmmaker from Culver City, California. She took on a school project called Vote Your Future, and she chose immigration as her topic after participating in an event at the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. She will now share her video project.
Think of all of the memories you have had with your family. Now imagine what you would do without them. What would you do if you had no one to take care of you, no one to love you? Even worse, what would you do if you got separated from your family? Migrant children are getting separated from their parents at the border starting back in 2017. Conditions have only gotten worse since then. Now there are about 69,550 children that have been separated miles away from their parents, whom the US government is failing to reunite. They are living in harsh conditions, no ways to take baths, and barely enough food. They are in prison. The issue of children getting separated from their immigrant parents is critical to our country because the US is a place where people can live freely. There are long-term effects, and we should not repeat history, but learn from it. People who cross the border seeking for freedom and opportunity in America should not be seen as criminals or be separated from their children. America is a place where we have freedom and opportunity, which is why people come here. Just after he was put in office, Donald Trump accused migrants of being criminals and rapists. In 2017, when people crossed the border, they were charged and their families were separated, even if they entered through official entry ports. Then, in May 2018, the zero tolerance policy stated that all migrants who crossed the border without permission were to be referred to the Department of Justice prosecution, where refugees were imprisoned and children under the age of 18 were shipped miles away from their parents. According to the Washington Post, the trauma of getting separated from family can cause brain damage psychologically and directly hurt the structure of the brain. This happens when children are forced to be away from their parents. They release hormones that kill dendrites, which are in our brains and connect when learning a skill or subject. Doctors went to where kids were staying and reported that kids were knocking their heads against the wall. As children grow up, they may have lower IQ scores and poor life skills. This happens because brain cells cannot repair themselves like other parts of the body can. Not only this, children miss out on the connection and sense of love between them and their family. This is reminiscent of another part of American history. During World War II, America incarcerated Japanese Americans without justification of any crimes they committed. Entire families were forced from their homes and forced to live several years of their lives in prison. Many of them were American citizens. They lost their jobs, homes, sense of pride, and were ripped away from their friends and communities. As history has shown, this was unjust. Instead of doing it again with migrant children, we should have learned from the past and come up with a better solution. Japanese Americans suffered from discrimination ever since they came to the US in the late 1800s. When World War II broke out, the government only incarcerated Japanese Americans, not any other of the countries fighting in World War II. Japanese Americans were seen as a threat, and the prison camps had terrible conditions. I talked to my grandfather, Robert Nakamura. He was incarcerated in Manzanar.
I was 6 years old, and people who you thought were friends were no longer friends. And my dad decided to get rid of anything that was connected with Japan. He burned letters, documents, Japanese swords that he had. He couldn't burn those, so he buried them. Most of us were American citizens. And there's soldiers that walked around the barbed wire fences, towers with soldiers and machine guns pointed in.
I also talked to my grandmother, Karen Ishizuka, who is an activist and expert in this field.
We have a responsibility to speak up because we know that not only is it really bad for them now, but they will suffer from this for decades to come.
Accusing people of being criminals just because they crossed the border does not mean they should be put into a place that is inhumane. Not only that, we should never separate parents from their children. Luckily, this policy is ending, but now many parents and their children are unable to reunite. Nothing like this should ever happen again, and we must keep protesting to stop it.
Thank you for sharing that video, Mina. That was beautiful. How did you decide to create your video on that topic?
Well, it was a class assignment called Vote Your Future, and I knew a little bit about my grandfather, who went to Manzanar, and I was in a program about 2 years ago. I read some letters from Japanese Americans who are incarcerated and children separated from their parents in detention centers. And I wanted to find more, so I chose this topic for Vote Your Future.
That's awesome. That's, I think, a lot of people's experience with deciding to be an activist in this. I know I've heard similar stories from my grandmother, and it's just very moving to hear about. What were the most important messages or pieces of information that you learned from the experience of interviewing your grandparents about this topic?
So my grandfather was put in Manzanar, so it was good to get a first-person perspective on the case. And so now I have a better sense of like what these children are going through. And probably the most surprising thing I heard was the long-term effects. I didn't put in the video, but on him, even now that he's older. Like when he just got released, people would say mean things to him. Sometimes he wouldn't get served at restaurants. So even now, sometimes when he goes to a restaurant and service is bad, he thinks it's his fault, but he reassures himself. And I think that was probably the most surprising to me.
Thank you for sharing that. Next, we have Lillian Ellis, who is 12 years old from El Cerrito, California, and Kaya Marbin, who is 13 years old and is from Alameda, California. Together, they organized and led the Butterfly Effect art project with the goal of making 15,000 paper butterflies as a visual representation of the migrant children in detention in order to raise awareness and inspire action to end child detention. They will now share a video of their recent actions.
Something is happening in our country right now today that needs our attention.
And our activism.
I'm Kaya and I'm 11.
I'm Lily and I'm 10. And together we started the Butterfly Effect.
We wanted to stand up for immigrant families so people would realize just how many children are being held in detention centers. So we started the Butterfly Effect.
We decided to make one butterfly for each of the 15,000 immigrant children in the detention centers at the border.
Imagine what would happen if we all made butterflies as a way of standing up for kids in detention centers.
Yo, until you're free, I'll be learning about your life and rights. Looking out for what you need, working to adjust my sight. See, until you're free, I'll be stepping up physically, putting focus on the real pic, taking responsibility. I'm not trying to live in a world that wants to remove you. I'm trying to be in a place with space to include you. We out here playing by rules that muffle the truth, which eventually becomes soundproof. Say it loud.
I'm the one standing up. I'm the one standing up. I'll be lifting you up. I'll be lifting you up. I will never slow down. I will never slow down. No better time than now. No better time than now. I'm free until you're free. We will be louder and stronger together. Time's up, dream. Time's up, speak. Time's up, lead. Time's up, believe. That the time is now. That we got the power. Stand up side by side, impossible to break us down. Time's up, dream. Time's up, speak. Time's up, lead. Time's up, believe. That the time is now. That we got the power. Stand up side by side, impossible to break us down.
We can make a bigger voice. We can make it twice as loud. We can make a better choice. We can be proud.
Ven conmigo y alcemos una sola voz, que se escuche en cada esquina de este mundo. Tú decides, puedes elegir mejor, sentir orgullo de lo que logramos juntos.
Now is the time though, yeah, but you gon' need some spine though, yeah, I mean you gon' need some backbone. We lost love, it's time to find it, bring it back home. Turn the lights on, where the lights at, your presence is a present. It's time to fight back, stand up, stand out, do everything but stand down. Have heart, play your part, do what you can now. The future ain't no mystery, choices dictate everything that you finna see. You either spectate or you create, you either at the table or be what's on the plate.
Somos más fuertes cuando nos unimos. Ser solidarios es lo que elegimos. No se trata de lo mío, no se trata de lo tuyo. Yo te apoyo, doy mi mano, lo hago con orgullo. I'm not free until you're free. We will be louder and stronger together. Are we free if you're not free? Can we be louder and stronger together? Time's up, dream. Time's up, speak. Time's up, lead. Time's up, believe. That the time is now, that we got the power. Stand up side by side, impossible to break us down. Time's up, dream. Time's up, speak. Time's up, lead. Time's up, believe. That the time is now, that we got the power. Stand up side by side, impossible to break us down.
Thank you for that inspiring video. So, Kaya, how did you and Lillian decide to start the Butterfly Project?
So I was actually listening to a story on the radio with my mom, and like we were just listening to the radio, and a story came on about kids in detention center and immigration, and I was hearing it, and I was just thinking about how like unfair it was and how unright. And I had heard about the detention centers before, but like it really just kind of struck me. And so then I thought that we had to do something. And so then I was thinking about what we could do. And I remembered a little while earlier, then me and Lily had done a rally together when families were being separated. We had done a rally together as part of like something happening all over the country. And we had a ribbon for each of the kids who had been separated from their families. And I thought we should do something like that, where we should show a visual representation of all the kids. And actually behind me, these are all butterflies that we've got all like people all over the world to make butterflies with us.
Thank you. That drive to just immediately take action when you hear those types of things is just really inspiring. So thank you. And Lillian, what was the most important part of you and Kaya's experience visiting the Capitol that you want to share?
Well, I think in general, it was a really powerful experience, and being able to drop off stuff to every single senator in the Senate building. And so I think the most important, or at least the time I felt most powerful, was the second day when we went to deliver butterflies to all of the Republican senators. And the fact that we knew that we had the power and we knew that we were going to change people's minds. And every time we walked into someone's office, we were very clear and we told our story, and we made sure that even if they weren't there, they were going to get butterflies and that they were going to hear our story. So I think that was one of the most important things we did. Yeah.
Thank you. That seems like a very, very powerful experience, and thank you for sharing that and your movement with the audience. Now, our final, so next is Iaco Keener, a 17-year-old artist from Oakland, California, whose illustrations include the cover and the images of the Big Book of Black and Japanese Unity, a coloring book celebrating multiracial leaders and community collaboration. She has organized Never Again Is Now, a social justice club to increase student awareness and activism. Iaco is now going to present a slide of her illustrations.
Thank you, Skyla. Can someone disable the participant or undisable the participant screen sharing? I'm not able to screen share right now.
You should be able to now. Try it again. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Now I will walk you through my art slides. These are some of the wave posters that I made for Japanese Americans for Justice after attending my first meeting. I was inspired to create these after a group discussion on how Japanese people are seen as quiet and conforming, but Japanese Americans for Justice is speaking out, making waves, and bringing awareness around family detention and separation. Here are some posters I made surrounding the Never Again Is Now statement. In the background, I made a collage of photos taken by Dorothea Lange, who photographed the Japanese concentration camps, and these photos were only released by the government in 2006. I took one of the photos that stood out to me and made a graphic drawing of it. The photo captures Kimiko Kitagaki, a young evacuee guarding the family baggage prior to departure to Tanforan Assembly Center. My artwork was also made into a tote bag to raise donation funds by Japanese Americans for Justice. During my junior year of high school, I started the Never Again Is Now Club, which addressed current social injustices that made them present to the school community. We received over 70 signups to join. And, then the pandemic hit, so we were forced to do online school, but I thought that was so cool that over 70 people wanted to join. Before COVID, the club was able to gather at least once for a Tsuru fold-in and poster making for the Yuba County protest. And here are some of the posters we made for those attending the protest. And I also have some posted up in my background. I attended the Tsuru Rising Vigil at the Tamforan Memorial last year, and I photographed the picture to the left. And this photo was picked up by a lot of social media platforms and featured on PBS and KBTC News, allowing the vigil to gain publicity and raise awareness towards the cause. This is a digital illustration I did of Yuri Kochiyama, an American civil rights activist who advocated for social justice and human rights. My most recent project with Japanese Americans for Justice was collaborating on a Black and Japanese unity coloring book. I was so honored to design the cover of the book featuring Yasuke, a samurai of African origin, Naomi Osaka, Japanese professional tennis player, who is also the reigning champion of the US Open, and Yuri Kochiyama. The people I drew for the coloring book were Aisha Fukushima, a rapper slash activist or raptivist, leading a musical discussion on social justice. Naomi Osaka, who you saw on the cover, and she is also a dedicated social activist using her huge platform to elevate activism and advocate for the Black Lives Matter movement. And lastly is Umi, a Japanese American R&B artist. Thank you for listening and letting me share my artwork.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Iaco. What made you decide to create activist art and incorporate that in your sense of artisticness?
So I decided to really start creating after this type of art with message after meeting the Japanese Americans for Justice community. I never really knew a strong presence of Japanese Americans in my area. So when my mom first brought me to my first meeting, I was immediately drawn in by their mission and goals. I just wanted to contribute my art to make a difference.
Thank you. What is your favorite work that you have created, and what do you feel is so important about its message?
My favorite work that I've done is probably the Black and Japanese Unity coloring book, because it was just so fun to work on. And the most important message, I think, is representing solidarity within the Black and Japanese community, as well as just solidarity within all other minority communities experiencing injustices.
I think that's a really beautiful message. Thank you. Now, our final panelist is Kazu Freebert, who is 12 years old and from Sacramento, California. He is a dedicated supporter of Tsuru for Solidarity, who reached out to us with ideas for the and a passion to help Yvonne. He is also the creator of Mask Maker Ninja, a business he started during the pandemic. He will now share details on how to donate and how to help Yvonne and Hilda.
Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this event. I'm deeply humbled by the creativity and activism of the previous speakers. My name is Kazu. I'm also known as Mask Maker Ninja. As a preface to my main announcement, I'd like to ask you all a question. Now, it will be a bit unusual to do over Zoom, but I'd like to try it. Please raise your hand if you think you can fold 125,000 origami cranes. Anyone? Now, raise your hand if you think you can help fold 125,000 origami cranes. Making a difference always seems like it has to be something big. Activism often looks like building a house, planting a forest, saving an endangered species, and other newsworthy things. When I was in 6th grade, I was inspired by Tsuru for Solidarity to conduct origami fold-ins at my school, during which I taught people how to do the first few folds to make origami cranes, which I brought home and finished. Now, you might ask, as I did, how is folding cranes an act of service? I learned from leaders of Tsuru for Solidarity that doing origami, which requires precision and focus, is an act of meditation. Making cranes for a cause spreads awareness and unites us around a serious issue. It's challenging and fun to fold origami cranes, and teaching others to fold them shares that joy while educating people about the problems Tsuru for Solidarity seeks to confront. During my fold-ins, I offered a piece of chocolate to thank people for helping me. One student who came to my table was clearly only interested in the chocolate and not the origami. At first, it didn't seem like he would bother to do the origami, but then he actually picked up a piece of paper and folded it in half, just once. Then he handed it back to me, took a chocolate, and walked away. He did this the next time and the time after that. He only made one fold each time. I struggled to appreciate his contribution at that time because it was obvious that his grand scheme did not involve altruism. He was doing it for the candy. But then I realized, if it weren't for him, that piece of paper would remain unfolded. So maybe one person alone can't fold 125,000 cranes, but one person can help fold 125,000 cranes. I was truly surprised, not only by people's willingness to learn to fold origami, but also by the generosity of donors who chipped in some change. Thanks to the bit of pocket money I collected, I was able to contribute $50 to Tsuru for Solidarity, and a matching grant from an anonymous sponsor turned my donation into $100. So today, it is my pleasure to announce a matching grant of my own. I will match up to $150 for contributions to Austin Sanctuary Network. We'll transfer the money directly to Yvonne. Please make a donation of any size, and it will be doubled for the first $150 sent in, with the incentive I'm offering today. You should be seeing the information on how to make your donation on the screen now. So take a quick screenshot, and the information will also be available in the chat and on the Tsuru for Solidarity website. Please note that checks should be made payable to Austin Sanctuary Network, but should be sent to the Tsuru for Solidarity's mailing address. Also, be sure to include your return address and write Yvonne Ramirez in the memo line so that the funds go directly to support Yvonne and his mother. I raised money for this matching grant by sewing and selling custom face masks, and I have a special offer for 10 lucky people who decide to support Yvonne. I will gift them with one of these custom masks that are silk screened with an origami tsuru and butterfly on one side and our logo on the other. And after hearing about the mask giveaway I'm offering, another Tsuru for Solidarity member's family is offering 10 more masks, making the total 20 gifts for 20 people who support Yvonne. We'll put names into a lottery and choose 20 people at random to receive one of these custom masks. So give today, and don't forget to include your name and address in case you win. Everyone has a chance to win a mask. In closing, please remember, it takes a penny to make a dollar. Every to-do starts with the first fold, and any contribution is an act of service and compassion towards Yvonne and Ilda, no matter how modest it may seem. Any amount of money, or even a single fold, can add up to something more, even an entire movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kazu, for sharing information about how people can help Yvonne and about your own experiences with creating movements. I would like to invite Hilda back. We're finished with all the panelists now, but I think she would like to say a few words to everyone here today.
Solo quiero agradecerle a cada uno de ustedes por sus apoyos y todo su cariño que han hecho por nosotros, y lo siento mucho que tuve que apagar la pantalla. Había un hombre que quería quemar la iglesia y me acaba de amenazar, y y también ayer vino, pero pues creo que se llevó a la policía, pero pues estamos bien, y pues muchísimas gracias por todo lo que ustedes están haciendo, y ojalá que pronto vamos a salir de la iglesia.
Thank you so much, Hilda and Yvonne, for sharing your stories today. And thank you to all the amazing panelists that are here today. I was inspired by getting to know each one of you these past few months. And another big thank you to everyone watching today. We hope that you learned new things and felt inspired to take action. We are now finished with all of our panelists, but they have agreed to stick around for a little bit longer for a Q&A with the audience. Thank you all for being here today, and we hope that you will consider donating to Yvonne and Hilda.
Thank you, Skyla. Thank you, all the panelists. And I think Hilda's story about something that is occurring right in this moment is something that is rife in our country today. The threat, the anger, the violence, the fear that people have to live in. So it makes what we're talking about today very relevant and so important. And particularly, we need to feel uplifted. And one way we feel uplifted is when we hear the voices of these amazing young people who are motivated and inspired and really beyond belief, so amazing. It is the light that we need right now. So thank you all. Thank you for participating, and want to shout out to Lisa Doi for her technical assistance. And now if you have a question, you can put it in the chat and Lisa will forward those to me, and then I will pass them on to the panelists. Okay.
Satsuki,
sure.
If I may, I don't know if everybody caught what was happening, if you weren't able to go over to translation, but at this moment they had Hilda and Yvonne and said had to turn off the camera during the panel because there was a man who's been coming to threaten them, and he came today and he's trying to burn down the church. He's angry at their existence. So that's something that's happening that just happened right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Aida. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah. Okay. So we can go to the Q&A. So there is a question. How did an adult ally artist help to support your journey? Is there, okay, so does someone want to answer that? In what way did some adult in your life support you? And maybe you can just say a few words about how that happened. Who wants to answer that?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is something that also all adults who want to support kids can do, and that's listen to what kids have to say. We live in the same world that you do. We experience the same things that you do, and listening is a way that adults can be allies to the youth and help with their projects or their ideas and make them come alive. Listening and believing in, really. Listening and believing in the youth.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Let's see, Lisa, I don't see any more questions. Are we?
Please continue. If you have questions, please drop your questions in the chat.
And while we're waiting to see, oh, okay, here's a question. Have you all gotten any pushback or racism from other students? No negative comments. Go ahead, Iaco.
So when I was starting my club, the Never Again Is Now club, my junior year, a lot of my classmates and just students, freshman to senior, didn't really know about like the camps and that people were being detained. And some of my classmates also didn't agree with like just speaking out to stop the injustices that were happening. And that kind of, it just showed me, well, it just shocked me. And like they didn't join the club, and it was like really surprising because those were some of my closest friends. But I was like, okay, I see. And then but there's a huge group community at my school that I was able to reach out to, and like now I feel like the community has really grown and in their awareness as well.
Thank you, Iaco. I mean, you're talking about having courage to be an activist. You know, you speak out and it brings attention, and you could draw some negative responses. So being able to keep your positivity, but also gather support for yourself in this action is really important. So thank you for that. Okay, another question that I think is very good is, have you seen other young people grow in their awareness as a result of your activism?
I think in my experience, I think when kids first kind of hear about some activism movement that someone else at their school is maybe involved in, they're just like a little bit hesitant to, I think at least at my school, in my experience, most of them are very willing to say that they support a certain movement or things like that, but it's just a bigger commitment for them to, you know, join in and like really fully participate in those kinds of things. But I think I've seen over time, like as more kids become comfortable with talking about it and with taking action, then it's just sort of grows exponentially, that the more people that are doing it, then the more people begin to feel comfortable expressing their feelings and standing up for what they believe in and just being more vocal and more passionate about it.
So it also means to be a role model then, Skyla. Thank you for pointing that out, that it is a way to model and demonstrate to other kids in your school or in your group the positiveness of speaking out. There's a question here for Yvonne and Ilda. People are concerned about you and wondering if there is, are there any people that are helping you with your security when things like this happen?
Sí, está el pastor aquí y también pues están los miembros. Nosotros llamamos a los miembros de la iglesia y también pues hemos llamado a la policía también para pues para calmar esta situación.
Y lo triste es de que nunca sabemos si a qué hora va a pasar. Podemos estar solos nosotros, podemos estar en una situación donde nadie está con nosotros y algo así nos pase, donde tengamos que actuar rápido y como por ejemplo ahorita como el señor quiso quemar la iglesia, ahorita tuviéramos que, si estuviéramos solos, tuviéramos que actuar rápido y llamar a gente y siento que todo ese tiempo tomaría mucho proceso y pues para ese tiempo siento que ya hubiera quemado algo.
Pero ya vino la policía y pues no sé si se lo llevaron o lo dejaron.
Sí, hace 2 días el mismo hombre vino en la noche como a las 12 y 11, casi siendo a las 12, y él vino con un palo de metal. Mi mamá me contó esto y empezó a pegar la puerta y empezó a decir malas palabras y la policía lo llevó y lo único que nos dijeron a nosotros es que no se había tomado su medicina y por esa misma razón lo dejaron libre. Y ahorita ya se lo llevaron otra vez y tengo miedo que lo dejen libre otra vez y vaya a hacer cosas peores.
Yvonne and Ilda, I'm so sorry you have to live with that kind of fear. Hopefully they will put that man away so that he's not a danger to you. And hoping that the church community can organize so that there is someone there to help keep you safe night and day for a while. I think it'll be really important.
Sí. Sí, muchas gracias.
Okay, so we'll go with one last question, and I think I'd like each panelist to quickly respond to this question. Who or what has been your greatest source of inspiration for your artwork and your social justice work? So I'll call on you so we can make sure we hit everybody. Okay, so Lily, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So sorry. Will you say the question one more time?
Sure. Who or what has been your greatest source of inspiration for your work?
Got it. So I think definitely my family and my community, really, because they keep me present and they keep me grounded. And so I wouldn't be able to do it without my family and community. So I think they're also definitely inspiration because like my family, my grandparents, my mom is all inspiration for my activist work, and my community. I have such a big and beautiful community that it's inspiring, and I know that I have people that will support me, and so I'm engaged and want to make it happen.
Okay, thank you. You're so very articulate. It's wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, Mina, talk about who has been inspirational in your social justice work.
I would say like my grandparents, because my grandma actually got me into this panel, and we, like, before pandemic, we would go to marches and protests and other ways to be activists. So that really helped. Also, hearing like a first person point of view from my grandfather is really helpful, and seeing also my uncle, who is a filmmaker, has also inspired me to like make, maybe when I'm older now, like make more films about this to spread the word.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Iaco.
I think my mom has had the biggest influence on me regarding my activist work because she makes sure that like I don't think I was really invested or even knew about these issues um going into my freshman year, but she's always made sure me and my brother have known like our Japanese roots, and she's taken us to museums, put us in Japanese school, and like learning about my great grandparents who were in Manzanar in the concentration camp, and learning about how they went through their struggle. And even when I'm trying to like look for records, connect our family tree, and everything is gone, like that fuels me to continue with my social justice and activist work. So like nothing like that happens again.
Thank you. Thank you, Iaco. Yeah, I can see all these future leaders continuing their work in a way that will really make a difference for our country and our community. Kaya, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I think for me, my inspiration, it's kind of multiple people. My parents, first of all, they're both kind of activists themselves, and from a really young age, they would tell me and my brother about like different things that were going on in the world, and we'd have conversations about like racism and what that means, and like they've just like kind of taught us about all the stuff that kind of goes on in the world, and they weren't afraid to tell us the bad stuff, because that is what happens. And I think also Lily, and my aunt, who Lily and my aunt and some other people are in a band together, and she also has she helped me find my voice a little bit, I feel like, because I used to be like really shy. Now I'm less shy, but I'm still kind of shy. And she kind of helped me like kind of find my voice and be able to talk more, speak out.
Great. You've certainly found your voice. We're so grateful for that. Okay, Aida.
Wow. Well, I write for children. I'm the honorary adult panelist. Well, Hilda as well, and Edson. But yeah, I write for children because I have because they inspire me. There's this Mexican saying that goes, querían enterrarnos, pero no sabían que éramos semillas. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. And so I feel like our children are our seeds. They are the ones who are going to be leading the way. And, you know, just by the display of incredible artwork and the voices that we've heard today, that I think is more true than ever. And so they inspire me. And I just want to if I may, point out that Hilda has these dolls that she's selling also to try and help her and Yvonne. And I don't know if there's going to be a chance for her to show them, but I wanted to point that out. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you. We loved having you as an honorary youth. Yeah, and it was just synchronicity that I came across Aida's book and felt like she had been with us from the beginning of Tsuru for Solidarity as our crane stories merged. So thank you for being with us and writing just a very beautiful, wonderful book. And I hope people will find their way to your book. Yeah. Let's see, Skyla, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think my inspiration for activism has come from, I think both of my parents just always really encouraging me to use my voice and talk to people, start conversations, and that was just kind of part of the way that I was raised. And then I also think that you, my grandmother, has been really, really inspiring to me my whole life. Watching the documentaries that you've created and hearing about when you were in the internment camps with your brother and your parents. And also my dad is a conservationist, so he doesn't work on this same type of activism, but he's also really inspired me to use my voice and stand up for things.
Great, thank you, Skyla. Okay, so Yvonne, I mean, you've certainly had the direct experience that we're all hoping to support you and to fight this whole detention and look forward to your freedom. But it's possible that many people who are targeted are forced to be silent, and yet you and your mom have been sanctuary leaders, speaking out, going on hunger strikes, and really fighting not just for yourselves, for other people. So can you talk about what has, or if there is anybody who has inspired you to do that?
¿Quieres decirlo en inglés o español?
Okay. So, algo que me inspiró a mí como a hacer activismo y yo en el futuro quiero crecer y terminar siendo un activista o alguien que ayude a gente como yo. Y mi mamá es la que me inspira y me inspira a ayudar a gente como yo y también la vida me inspira, a mí me ha enseñado la vida que para sobrevivir a veces tienes que emigrar y pues no todos te van a querer de donde emigras y tienes que ser fuerte y seguir luchando y todo esto lo he visto de mi mamá también. Mi mamá ha luchado mucho, es muy fuerte, es muy valiente con todo lo que está pasando. Y mi mamá es la que me inspira y también siento que en un tiempo todos estuvimos juntos, pero poco a poco nos estuvimos separando. Siento que este es el tiempo donde nos podemos reunir todos otra vez y ser como todos una familia y sin tener que discriminar a nadie y verlo diferente. Y pues es todo lo que me inspira.
Your mother is smiling. Hilda, do you want to say a few words about what has inspired you to be so strong and brave?
Pues yo creo que lo mismo lo que dijo Iván, a veces la vida te hace luchar y ver las cosas, lo malos y tratar de cambiar las cosas para hacerlo bien y tratar de enseñar pues enseñar. Sé que pues mis padres nunca han enseñado a ser activista o a ser luchar contra esto, pero pues la vida lo fui aprendiendo y así. Y más que nada fue por mi hijo también me dio el valor para luchar, para salir adelante y pues de esta injusticia que está pasando. Y estoy muy, muy, muy contento que los jóvenes como nuestros hijos van a seguir el mismo paso para que todos estemos unidos. Es como el árbol, cuando juntas unas ramas, si una rama es muy fácil de quebrar, Pero si unas todo una rama y si intentas quebrarlo, no se puede quebrar porque todos estamos unidos. Ese es el mismo que nosotros tenemos que hacer, estar todos unidos para que no nos quebremos y todos seamos muy fuertes.
Thank you, Hilda and Yvonne. Yeah, we need to have a forest. We need to be a forest, right? Of many strong trees. Yeah. And Edson, you've been in the background, but I just want to ask you the same question because you are an artist and have volunteered your time to support Yvonne in his artwork. Can you tell us what has inspired you?
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I want to speak in English. There. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Okay. I feel weird. Yeah, what inspired me, it's my story, in the struggles that I've been through in life as a person, as a person of color, as a person of as a Mexican person. All the struggles that I've been through inspire me to keep going in life and to help people and to currently helping Hilda right now. And everything I just been through, it's so freaking terrible and mean. And if I can do anything that I can do, like the art I did right now, it's that's I hope that doing anything. And right now I'm just trying to help, yeah, Hilda emotionally, whatever I can right now to help her with the person who tried to fire the church right now. And I feel that even though that it's scary, it gives me strength to keep going and to keep going in life and to hopefully let Hilda free.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, so Lisa, can you put or Kazu, can you put the card back on that explains to people how to make the donation for Yvonne and Hilda? So the checks will go to Austin Sanctuary Network, which is the organization, the nonprofit organization that is providing support for Hilda and Yvonne and other people who are in sanctuary. Right now, there are 40 people across the country who have to live in a safe place. So if they step outside the door, they could be picked up by ICE and deported. Please put for Yvonne Ramirez on the memo line, and the money will go to Austin Sanctuary Network, and then they have agreed to forward it onto Yvonne and Hilda. Make the checks, mail the checks to our post office box so that we can keep a record and collect information so that we can then forward that on to the Austin Sanctuary Network. We also want to be able to send thank you notes to folks. And we will have a drawing of the masks made by our mask maker ninja, Kazu. And also Mina's family has also donated 10 masks to be selected in exchange for a donation. And Hilda has these dolls. So do you want to show them again? And maybe we could get it on the big screen. Oh, they're beautiful. We met Hilda and Yvonne, beautiful solidarity went to Texas to protest at Dili. And also we joined Ilda and another person in sanctuary named Alirio for a press conference where they spoke out about their circumstances and discovered that they made these lovely I'll get more information on how, if anybody is interested in acquiring these dolls, we'll figure out how to let people know. Okay, so we are right on time. It is 2:30 for all of us. We have our final message. And Skyla, do you want to say anything as we close?
I think that's all.
All right, thank you, everybody. And this program will be recorded, so you can go to the Tsuru for Solidarity website in a couple of days and urge other people to view the film, the video, and also to make their donations. All right, thank you.